Today we have a special guest, Shelby Aurthur from a local title company. He's going to discuss with us some of the little fees. When you make a purchase and sale in real estate, you're going to have commissions that you pay as a seller and sometimes as a buyer, and you're also going to have other closing costs. And part of those closing costs are things we call title. So thank you for coming today and welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure.
So tell us some of these fees that we have. People kind of see a big long statement, they're all in there. Can you give us a little bit of a description as to what is title?
Sure. So that is the $1 million question. You have to have title in a purchase and sale. You have to, absolutely. Title is extremely important for multiple reasons. You have your owner's title and then you have your lender's title.
Okay, so we go over the owner's first and then kind of figure out as a buyer what that gives me?
Sure, absolutely. So kind of with the owner's title first, it really protects the buyer, the owner, essentially, of the property. So kind of what happens with that per se, it's just making sure that the liens and all of the encumbrances and any kind of boundary lines or anything along those lines, tax liens, anything like that is clear. So when you purchase the property, you have 100% ownership of that property. So there's no mechanics liens on there. There's no tax liens on there for any kind of tax purposes. You don't make your payment. They can throw a lien on there.
Okay, that makes sense. So what happens if something gets thrown on the property after you've already owned it though, and it was from the previous owner?
Sure.
Is this sort of an insurance policy?
Absolutely. So it definitely is a type of insurance, for sure. So what kind of happens there with mechanics liens? It's 90 days after you complete the project. So it's not when you start the project, it's 90 days after completion of the project that a mechanics lien can be placed on your property. So that's usually a subcontractor, general contractor, someone who probably didn't get paid throughout the process. And then they come in, they're like, hey, I want to get paid.
That makes sense.
They put a lien.
So as a buyer, you don't want to inherit someone else's debt, right?
No,
that's basically what you're
not.
getting the freedom from.
Absolutely.
I can see why that's so important, and I'm sure lenders would require that.
Absolutely. So lenders want to be in first lien position, right? They don't want to be in a second lien position. So what that means is that they have the first availability to foreclose on that property if they need to. So if they're in second lien position, someone else is in first lien position, it can kind of get a little convoluted. So it's definitely important. Lenders, owners, title policies are your two basic title policies you're gonna get.
So Shelby, tell me, who pays for these fees?
Sure, absolutely. So it kind of gets a little convoluted sometimes. So you have your lender's policy, right? That's what it's named, but the lender's not paying for it.
Okay.
But who's representing the lender? The buyer?
The buyer.
Right. So the buyer pays for that fee.
Okay.
Your owner's policy, you're gonna have the owner of the property. So it's gonna be the seller.
Okay.
So typically sometimes it can get a little convoluted. I mean, you'd like for it just to say, buyers, you have this, sellers, you have this, the end. Unfortunately, we like to make it complicated in real estate. That's why you hire a professional like Tim Olsen.
There you go. So tell me, who pays more?
Sure, so it kind of depends. Honestly, it really is not who pays more essentially on it. It just depends on purchase price and sales price. And so that's dictated by, we have our rates are filed with the state of Washington. Every title company can be a little bit different, but there's not really anybody who pays more or less. So it keeps it going, you know, it ensures for the lender that title's free and clear, that they have full ownership in that property. And as you know, especially when you're listing a property, you really want to look and see who the owner is.
Sure.
Because if it's not the person that you're talking to in front of you, you can get some big trouble for sure.
So Shelby, say I'm representing a buyer and we make an offer and we're getting ready down the process. What does my buyer receive from the title company to ensure that this transaction looks like it's going on track and it's good?
Sure, absolutely. So you get a 16-page document, actually. You don't have to read all 16 pages. But it does have everything as far as who the previous owners are. So when I explain it to our clients, it's a storybook of your house. You know, you can go in and you can look and see who your previous owners were, what potentially, like if there was anything as far as passed through family, if it was ever in a trust, if it was ever in an estate or anything along those lines, you can see that whole history within that title report. Not only that, but it's gonna give you your CC&Rs. So in your CC&Rs, it's very important, especially if you want to put up a fence, paint your house, maybe put up a shed. All of that information is going to be listed in your CC&R. So it's going to tell you what you can and cannot do
Okay.
in regards to that property specific.
And I want to be able to remind people that are listening that that's part of the purchase and sale contract, is when that buyer is to receive that information from the title company. These guys are really busy, but there is a deadline in which you have to receive that, because you need to be able to make a decision during a contract whether the CC&Rs are too restrictive.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to paint a pink fence in the front of your house, they don't allow that, you're going to want to get out of this transaction right away, because you only have a very limited amount of time to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. And part of doing that as being an agent too, and having that, is knowing where to look for that. You know, if you have a buyer or if you have a seller and they have strict CC&Rs, you as a professional, you're going to tell that to the public, and you're going to let them know what they can and cannot do. So you give your client the best opportunity to get a buyer.
Right. And so Shelby is not just someone I just picked off the street. She's part of my team. She's someone whom I trust implicitly, because if my clients have questions about title, I'm not a title expert. This is what they do for a living. This is what they do, you know, how they make their money and how they help people. I help people finding homes in the other parts of the real estate transaction. And so my clients can always reach out to the title reps to talk to them about what they need to know about what's on this report.
Yeah, absolutely. We always invite clients to come on into our office, and you know, if they have questions, or if they're like, hey, like, this is my boundary line according to my title report, but my neighbor's fence is on it, what do we do? What's the next step? And so come on in, we can definitely answer those questions for you and get it all figured out.
It's really important to get all these questions on the table. Buying and selling real estate can be a bit stressful at times. We're going to do everything we can to minimize that stress, and the way you can do that is to be prepared and to work with a team that's got your back for you. So I think that wraps things up. Thank you so much. We had a lot of information we covered today. Shelby, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
So if you have any questions for Shelby, contact me. She's part of my team, somebody I want you to be able to get in touch with. If you have any questions, whether you're buying or selling, or even if you have something kind of stuck in your mind on what we were talking about today, I'd be happy to put you in touch with her. I'm Tim Olsen. I'm a real estate agent with John L. Scott.